Hello everyone and welcome to another What I Think review. Now first things first, I apologise if you hear a bit of whirring and buzzing in the background. I've got my printer running. I'm doing quite a big print for possibly what is one of my biggest customs to date. More on that coming in future, but I need to leave it running whilst I'm doing this video. But today, for What I Think review, we are looking at the latest Vortex Edition character options exclusive set. And this is the 14th Doctor, a coatless 14th Doctor, and Beep the Meep. So certainly a very interesting set, one that I have to say looks absolutely fantastic. Really nice to see the sort of detail and the accessories that we've got in this. And really nice that they're continuing these Vortex ones with a sort of higher definition detail. As I said, this is exclusive through the Character Options website, and at the time of recording I believe 80% of these sets have sold, so if you haven't got one yet, be sure to get in there quickly because they are selling very, very well, it seems. So overall, box-wise, really nicely presented. Again, similar to the previous Third Doctor set that we've had. We've got a really nice sort of style of box. We've got a really nice clear views of the figures. We've also got an interior backdrop, which we're going to get into looking at. And if we turn it round, we've got a nice little bit of information on the back here in regards to the episode and the characters as well. Really nice. Lot of information here. I'm not going to go through it all, but obviously we've got a bit here about how this is a Vortex edition with the higher details, contents of everything we've got, and also says this exclusive set features the 14th Doctor without his jacket and both the adorable and vicious Meep with interchangeable head and hands. So really nice looking box, really well detailed. I have to say I really do like the look of these sort of Vortex boxes. They stack very well, they look really good alongside each other. And it's definitely a set of figures which I think is going to prove very, very popular. But let's get on to having a look at what we've got inside the set. So for the backdrop, we have here what seems to be Beep the Meep's ship. This does seem to be a sort of just still image from the episode of the ship, but I think it looks great. It's a really nice little sort of backdrop to have. And it's nice to see these sort of set themed backdrops being added into these sets, because it really does just sort of make them stand out a little bit more. You know, with the Third Doctor we had the roundels from the Third Doctor's TARDIS. With this we've got the sort of themed Beep side of things. It was something, you know, that we've seen in previous sets, so I'm glad to see they're sort of continuing this tradition, because again it just adds a nice little bit of extra detail to the figure set, I think. So first up here we have the 14th Doctor. Now I'm not going to do my usual 360-degree spin with this one because I really want to sort of get into having a look at the updated articulation we've got on this figure. Obviously he comes with his little sonic screwdriver accessory. I know this was originally one that was planned for the regeneration set with the 13th and 14th Doctors, but it never got made. But obviously it's nice to see it finally actually in the set. Detail wise, looks very good. The suit, because of the moulded plastic, has a little bit more of a shine to it than the previous version, which it's kind of nice, but I will say I think it does make the detailing on the waistcoat particularly a little bit more difficult to see when you're just sort of looking at it without sort of getting up close. But I don't necessarily think that that's that is a bad point. It's just something that again I feel is worth noting. Obviously legs wise we've still got the standard 10th Doctor legs which have been repurposed. It would be nice if we could get a little bit of updated articulation in the thighs, but again, you know, it's a small thing that I'm not going to, you know, necessarily hold it against, but it is something that I just feel is worth pointing out. But obviously the arms wise we've got some brand new arm joints, so but they are on a ball joint with the bicep swivel. And obviously the elbow as well is jointed. Really nice to see those, you know, because it really is nice to see a coatless 14, because I know it's one that a lot of people that did really want to see this. You know, I've already previously made one myself as part of a custom which I actually made for a regeneration set with the 14th and 15th Doctors, before we knew what the regeneration would take place with the bi-generation and the splitting of the clothes. So it's actually slightly inaccurate, but I think it does still look very nice. But obviously on this one as well we've got an updated head sculpt. I say updated head sculpt. Let's zoom in and have a better look at that. So close up on the head sculpt, it is actually the same head sculpt as the previous release, but like the other Vortex editions, this one has been cast in skin coloured plastic and then had the details painted on. And I have to say, I really, really love the way that they're deciding to do this with these Vortex editions, because the one problem that you've often had, and I said this with the Third Doctor as well, and the Shooty and Millie Gibson, Ruby Sunday, and 15th Doctor figures, is the problem that you have with a lot of the painting a face sculpt is it does soften it and it loses a lot of the details, whereas doing it this way really does just capture the sheer level of detail. Unfortunately, I don't have a standard 15th Doctor figure to compare it to, but I do have, if you'll give me a moment, so I have a partially customised one. This is my own custom 15th Doctor, but the head sculpt, if I try and get them both in frame, so the head sculpt on this one is the same standard head sculpt. Obviously I've added on some hair and I've added on some extra details, but the actual base skin tone and eyes and everything is all still the same. So I think you can see, I don't know how well it's coming up on camera, but when you look at these in hand, you really can see how much more defined the new 14th Doctor head sculpt is compared to the previous painted version. You know, it really does look so much crisper and cleaner and clearer, and I really do like that we're getting this updated version of the head sculpt. Now, initially when I saw this set, I did think it would have been nice if we could have gotten a head sculpt with glasses on, because obviously he does wear glasses in the episode, and this would have been a sort of good one to sort of mix from, say, Wild Blue Yonder as well as the Star Beast. But the more I thought about it, as much as it would have been nice to have the glasses accessory, I feel like it would have been also a little bit of a shame to have this updated, clean head sculpt, as it were, without any accessories on it. To have had sort of peg holes put in it to have glasses and things on like that. But you never know, you know, maybe we could get a single carded release or something later on with glasses or things like that. Or, you know, another opportunity that would have been interesting one to go down is similar to the Churchill figure they made for Series 5. He had glasses that could be removed and put on the figure as a separate accessory. Again, I appreciate that that would have been a very small accessory to add on, but you know, the reason I'm bringing that up as well is because obviously people out there who make you know, figure parts and accessories and things like that, a pair of removable glasses for a 14th Doctor, I would imagine would be quite fiddly to make, but it definitely would be an interesting one and could be done out of sort of a, you know, a transparent resin. So there's an idea for customizers out there. But yeah, you know, it's a really, really nice head sculpt. As I said, a glasses one would have been nice, but I think the clean version like this is actually the better choice of the two, because I think it really does look the part. You know, it's a really nice figure. It's really nice to see the details on the head sculpt really showing up in this. But now let's get on to looking at Beep the Meep. So here is Beep the Meep, really nice little figure, definitely one that's one that I don't think a lot of us are expecting to get, but it's a really nice one to see. Articulation is interesting because we've got head articulation, which has got a fair degree of movement on it, which makes sense because obviously we have the alternate heads. In terms of the arms, they move out, sort of up and down on the arms where it's folded. Outwards slightly, you've got a bit of sort of give on the elbow joint, and obviously up and down as well. We've got a degree of hip swivel as well. No articulation on the feet that I could see, but obviously the wrists also do turn. But obviously this comes with several different accessories. We have a alternate evil head and a mix of several different hands. We have an open left hand and a sort of closed left hand. We have another closed left hand, open right hand with the bandage, obviously closed right hand with the bandage, and then we have the blaster accessory on here, which does seem to be a separate accessory piece, but at least a separate part of the sculpt, but it is glued in place, so it obviously can be taken out. but it means that it will obviously need to be actually taken out. But we're going to have a go at swapping over and doing an evil Beep the Meep, and I'm going to try and do this on camera because I want to see how easy it is to actually change these parts. So head comes off very, very easily, which is nice. And obviously here you can see the ball joint actually in the actual head itself. So while I've got the head off, let's change over the hands. I'm going to give him his, or give it its blaster hand. So hand comes off pretty nice and easy, which is good. A little bit of a soft sculpt on the hand, which is a little bit difficult to get in place. And let's do the other hand and have an open hand sculpt. So they go in pretty easily, not too bad. And then obviously stick on the evil head. And there you have your evil version of Beep the Meep. So one thing that I will say that I've just noticed actually in the process of this is it is a little bit of a top heavy figure because of where the feet are. So like I said, as you can see, if you have the head and the body a little bit forward, it does tend to overbalance a little bit. But you know, I think it still does look the part. It still does look really good. It's nice to see the sort of differences in hands and accessories and things we've got. You know, and it's a really nice little extra figure to see. But you know, I really do have to give real props for giving us these alternate head and hands. You know, because it's been a long time since we have seen a character options figure with this degree of, well, I say it's a long time since we've seen a character options figure with this degree of accessories. Obviously, the previous Third Doctor Vortex figure had a good amount of accessories with them, but you know, in terms of more recent figures, it's something that they've only really started doing recently. As I said, 15 and Ruby obviously also had them as well, so again, they're fairly recent. But in terms of sort of figures like, generally speaking, I'm sort of looking around my collection thinking what was the last one we had that had really a good amount of accessories. Obviously we've had the B&M sets, have had one or two accessories in them, but you know, even things like, you know, the B&M sets with the Daleks, they didn't really have any. I'm really inclined to say the last time we saw figures with sort of a good amount of accessories like this would have probably been around the sort of 50th anniversary time, because even looking at some of the older figures right now, you know, with that had the blue, the original classic sort of releases with the blue and orange packaging, I'm looking at my collection that I've got in front of me, and the only one that I can see that's really got a good amount of accessories in it is the Unearthly Child First Doctor, which even then just had the skull and the cane. You know, there's sort of really not that many that I think have had this quite large amount of accessories in them. You know, it really isn't something that is, I'm sort of looking at. Maybe the War Doctor with the, you know, the 50th anniversary War Doctor with the alternate 8th Doctor head and moment. But you know, even like the recent Mavellan set we've got, you know, they had their guns, but that was pretty much it. Sorry if I'm rambling on a bit. I'm really just looking around the room and just seeing what we've had that's had this amount of accessories. And the more I'm looking, the more I think we've actually not had all that many, actually. This may be, you know, the Vortex editions may be actually some of the ones in certainly more recent times that have had quite a large amount of accessories in them, which is wonderful. Don't get me wrong. You know, I'm not saying, I'm trying to make it sound like it's a bad thing. It's absolutely wonderful to see that we're getting extra accessories and things like that, because I know accessories is something that fans have always asked for and always wanted. But on that note, in terms of some other things, so that is the sort of end of the review, but there are a couple of other points that I would like to talk about in regards to this particular set. Okay, so for this final bit of the review, there are two things that I'd like to talk about. Firstly, I'm going to put some pictures up on screen. Star One Props have made a in-scale Beep the Meep escape pod, the files for which are freely available to anyone who wants to make their own one. Now, this pod was commissioned by Al-Jawar of Character Options, but it was a private commission of his own. It was completely unrelated to Character Options. They had absolutely no input in that whatsoever. And the reason that I bring that up is I've already seen some people in looking at these sets and having seen that escape pod saying, well, it's ridiculous that Character are now commissioning this stuff and then expecting us to print it ourselves. No, that's not what's happened at all. Character have had absolutely no input in the creation of this escape pod. It was a private commission by Al. And let's be clear here, he has privately commissioned it, which means he's paid for it out of his own pocket, and having commissioned other people to design things for 3D prints, which I haven't had the skills to design myself, having commissioned people to make things, I can say it is not necessarily often cheap. So he has paid out for something out of his own pocket, and then he has decided to release those files for free for anyone to make for themselves. So yes, it's not an official figure, but if you want one, the files are now available for free to download. If you know someone with a 3D printer, you could get them to print it for you. If you've got a 3D printer yourself, you can get it printed. If you pay a 3D printing company to print it for you, the simple fact is it's going to cost you a hell of a lot less than it would if it was made officially. If it was made officially with the Beep the Meeper, if it had been put in this set, it would have been closer to the £100 mark, I'm sure. Even if it was just Beep the Meep and the escape pod, probably would have been closer still to the £50 or £60 mark. Whereas it is, it's available for free. Or, if you don't have a 3D printer, for a small fee to print yourself. So, I bring it up, as I said, because I've already seen people having a go at Character for something which they are not even involved in, that they are not had any input in. You know, it was a private commission by Al, which he has released to people for free. And I think that's a lovely thing to do, because it gives people the opportunity to make one. I'm going to make one myself. I was slightly worried about it being printed in filament. I thought it might lose some of the details. But I've seen a few other people, Greens 3D, who previously made some Dalek Emperors and other things like that, printed one in filament, and it looks absolutely fantastic. So it is one that I am going to print myself in future and make a custom one of. But I wanted to bring that up just purely because I thought it was important to put out the right facts on that, because I'm seeing a lot of incorrect information on regards to that. Now, the other point that I would like to talk about is price, because this is currently retailing, or it was at the time of recording, at $44.99. Now, and I've seen some people comparing this to both the previous Vortex release with the Third Doctor and the Sonic Screwdriver at the same price of $44.99, and also to the B&M sets at $21.99, which feature 3 figures. So let's break this down. Now, first things first, in everything that I'm about to say, I wish to make it absolutely clear, I have not been sent either of these as an advanced sample. It's always lovely when I do get advanced samples, but in this instance I have had to pay out for both of these sets. And I've paid nearly £90 for these 2 sets. And I have actively and consciously decided to pay that money because I wanted the item. It is what it is, it's the price it was, and therefore I have paid for it. You know, that was my own clear decision to pay for it. Now, with the Vortex release of the Third Doctor set, I've seen some people saying, well, this has got 2 figures in it for $44.99, but the previous one only had 1 figure in it for the same price. So why were they charging that for the previous one? Now, the previous one did only have 1 figure in it. It also had a small range of accessories, and it also had a chromed electronic sonic screwdriver. And no, it might not be a figure, but it is still something which needed tooling, still something which needed paint, still something which needed work on it, and it might as well have been another figure. So, no, they didn't put 2 figures in the previous one, but they put a figure and an electronic accessory in it. It's that price. You know, turning around and saying, well, this just proves, you know, that this is the price of 2 figures and then they're charging that for the price of 1 figure. No, they were charging it for the price of 1 figure and an extra accessory, a full-scale accessory that's got paint and electronics and things like that. That's the reason why. So making that comparison is a bit silly, because you can't just say, well, that's the cost of 1 figure and just ignore the sonic screwdriver. That's not how it works. The sonic screwdriver still cost money to make. On the flip side, I'm seeing people comparing this to the B&M sets. As I said, they're saying, well, we can go and get 3 figures for $21.99, and this is, you know, 2 figures for $44.99. Now, it's well known at this point that the B&M range has as little money spent on it as possible, not because of CO, because of B&M. B&M are the ones who don't want to put the money into those sets. That's why they are just basic re-releases and repaints and very, very minimal tooling. And, you know, that CO can only do what B&M let them do. Whereas with a set like this, they're under no such restrictions. They can do what they want. And because they are a business, and this is the crucial point, because they are a business, there are two factors which come into this. Firstly, inflation. Figures do not cost the same as they did X amount of years ago because the cost of production has gone up. I said it before and I'll say it again. As someone who works in production, albeit a different sector, I see that every day in my working day. You know, things just cost more. You see the things of price slowly trickling up daily. It is just the way it is. It's sad truth of the world, but that is a factor. So they have to sell the items at a cost which will recoup the cost of production, for one. Secondly, they are a business, so they have to sell things at a price which will net them a little bit of profit. That's just good business sense. I know that not everyone likes to hear this, and I know that there are probably going to be people who are watching this video and still not wanting to hear it, but that is a fact of life. And whilst these sets may not necessarily be priced at a price that are available to everybody, and again, I understand that gripe all too well. I have spent, I spent many years in the past where I couldn't find work, and there was lots of things that I wanted to buy and I couldn't afford to do it. I've been there myself, I understand that. I am now luckily in a fortunate position where I have a decent paying job where I can afford to buy these things. I'm very, I'm very happy and conscious that I'm very lucky to have that. But if CO sold these things at a price that benefited the fans, the company wouldn't be around much longer. If they sold these at £20, they're selling them at a loss. And you might turn around as a fan and go, well, yeah, but it means I get the set. No, you do get the set, but you're probably only going to get a bit two more before they go bust because they can't afford to stay open any longer. I've been over this many times, as I said, and I'm sure there are people that are still not going to be wanting to hear it, but they can't sell these things cheaper than they already are for various reasons. And at the risk of sounding entitled, the bottom line is, if you don't like the price that these are being sold for, no one is making you buy them. You don't have to buy them. If you want them, you pay the price it is because that is the price it is. If you really, really want it that badly, and this bit of advice, I want to make it very clear again, I am saying this as someone who has done this exact thing themselves. If you really, really want this, save up, no matter how long it takes you, and then really work for it, go and get it, and then you'll feel better for it. If it sells out before you manage to save up, then that is the unfortunate luck of the draw. Been there myself many times, it's horrible, but it is what it is. And it's all well and good turning around and saying, well, people who say that sort of thing are entitled. I'm sorry, but it is a fact of life. If you want something, sometimes you have to really work for it, and you can't expect companies or people or whoever to give you things you can't expect people or companies to give you things when you want them, how you want them, for the price you want them. That is an entitled viewpoint. I'm sorry, but it is, And I don't wish to end this video on a down note, but it is something which I feel needs to be discussed in this, because I have seen this comparison, like I said, to the other Vortex sets and the B&M sets being made, along with the previously mentioned thing about the the Meep pod, and there is a lot of sort of misinformation and incorrect information going on around this set, and I feel like it is important to raise this. And as I said, as someone who has actively had to pay out for these sets, I feel like I'm well within my rights to really sort of go into this and say this. But ending on a more positive note, it is an absolutely fantastic set. I believe there are at least 6 more Vortex sets planned for the coming year. So I really, really look forward to seeing what they are. I know there have been some leaks in regards to future sets. So I would ask, please don't, say what they are in the comments and things like that, because I do think it's a shame when these things get leaked, and I don't want my comment section to become a place where people go, to look for these things, because I do appreciate the, the work that goes into these and how tough it is for the people that work at CO when things get leaked ahead of time, because it does sort of, they put a lot of work into these, and then for someone to just reveal it ahead of time is a real shame for them. You know, imagine you'd spent ages really working hard on something, and then somebody decides to announce it before you get the chance to. It really does sort of, you know, steal your thunder sort of thing. But yes, positive. More Vortex sets are coming. Certainly looking forward to seeing what we're going to get. You know, if, you know, the previous 15th and Ruby and the Third Doctor and this set are anything to go by, the Vortex series is going to be absolutely fantastic. Really, really just wonderful to see the sort of level of detail and love going into these being made. You know, and I think especially sets like this and sort of Ruby and 15, you know, it really does sort of also put the rumours to bed that character options have no love for the new series. They might not be releasing stuff steadily from the new series, but the sheer amount of detail and all the accessories and everything that's gone into this set, I really do think it shows that, you know, they do have interest in making stuff from the new series, but because of price, they have to pick and choose what they can and can't do. I know that at the Toy Fair previously, we had seen a Wraith Warrior figure released. Hopefully, we may get a double pack of those as a Vortex. You know, again, I want to make it clear this is just me speculating. But you know, the fact that we know we've seen those figures, it would be nice if we got a double set of them for the Vortex. You know, editions, because I feel like that would be certainly a good one to see, and it would go really nicely alongside this set as well. Especially when you look at the sort of figure, you know, the scale of the figures in these boxes, I think they would definitely be ones. And I do look at this box and I think this does look like it's been potentially made with the idea of putting another two figures side by side in it. So fingers crossed that we may see the Wraith Warriors or Wrath Warriors or whatever they're called. But yes, that brings to a close another What I Think review. As always, I hope you all enjoyed this video. Like, favorite, subscribe, share, it really helps me out a lot, and be sure to check out the description below for a link to my Patreon. I am still doing my figure animation, but I've had a bit of a reshuffle, so there is only one tier on there at the moment. But for that smallest tier, you can get your name at the end of my videos, and all of your donations are greatly received. It really helps keep with the admin and running of the channel. I salute you all, and I will see you with another video very soon.